one. Sorry, push that button. There we go. Are we up? I hear echoes everywhere. Oh, Sienna, come on up.
Can I hear?
Oh yeah, you should wear the headphones.
Okay.
Okay, hang on. Let me put Sienna in my lap. Oh. There we go. Okay, and Forbes.
Can I have?
Yeah, you should have the headphones because you like to hear Pippier talk.
Hello, Forbes.
All right, talking to the microphone.
Hello.
So,
This
Forbes,
is you there.
What?
Well, your
Kevin
head's covered
says,
up by the
hello, Forbes, and
Tracy, we
hello,
go this
Lindsay.
way. There, your head's covered by the microphone.
What?
Kevin, my wingman, says hello,
Say
to you
NosillaCastaways.
and Lindsay.
Say hello.
Hello.
NosillaCastaways. Oh, you talking? Oh,
She
Sienna
wants to hear.
listen too. Can she try listening? Hang on. Hang on.
Jason
Oh, gotta
does
go
not
back
look
this way.
impressed right now.
Okay, here's Sienna.
Very good.
Dad.
Natural podcaster. Yeah. Yeah.
She's talking
Look at
extensively.
that pink.
Yes, Steve 3D. This is where the cool kids
It
hang
is.
out at
Okay,
5
see,
p.m.
like-
Pacific.
Let's give Forbes his turn back. Hello.
Okay.
Oh, Steve Davidson is here.
Wait, what is he doing?
Oh, he's sucking on a lollipop for some reason. Well, I guess I better do roll call. Oh, hello.
Who's that?
That's Mrs. Doubtfire. All right, I guess I better take the headphones back because I got to do roll call.
Hello.
Okay, say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. I'm still here.
All right. Well, I appreciate all your
Hello.
hellos there, everybody. I can see Seamus, Kevin, Bruce, Jason, Frank, Mike, Jill, John, Rick, Michael, Al, and let's see, I hit the sidebar. Anybody else? We got Rose in there. We got Lindsay the daughter and Steve Davidson. Oh, yeah, Lindsay the daughter. Come on screen, Lindsay.
We're matching today.
Oh, yeah. We're showing the company colors. Actually, you can't see either of our logos. There we go. Our ballast point
Hello.
logo. Okay. watch the wire. We've got wires strung everywhere, but I guess it's time for you guys to go. What'd you say? Say one more thing. What?
One more hello. Hello. Bye
All right.
bye. Hello.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, look, it says hello, Forbes.
Oh,
Look
who
at
is
that.
Jason?
That's from Jason. That's pretty cool
Why does it say that?
because he made it. Oh, Kevin says hello, Lindsay. All right. Bye-bye. Have fun. Okay.
It was a hello.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks, Lindsay. All right. As always, thank you for indulging us in our grandchildren here.
And
What's
the other
that?
one. The other
Oh,
one.
Steve's got some in there too. Wait, they're infesting all of the rooms.
Oh.
All right. Well, and there's his first harness test. Quaid.
Nice. Quaid, good job.
All right.
In fact, we might be hearing a little bit more about Quaid tonight.
Yes, we will. All right. I think I should.
And Seamus.
I'm going to have to do a lot of bouncing back and forth here.
Yeah, he grew quickly because it was just a few months ago he was a little pup.
Yeah. All right. I wish I had a better place to prop you, but I'll have to lean over here. They do that. Well, you should stop feeding them.
They do that.
That's what
Yes,
causes
they do,
that, you know.
Seamus.
All right, everybody. I think it's time to mute Steve and get this show on the road.
All right, let's do
I did
this.
not see Rose. If anybody sees Rose sneak in, let me know. Okay. Ooh, Steve muted himself, and I can tell by that hiss going away. All right. Why did I just hear you? Oh, I need to mute Discord. That's what I need to do, right? Okay. So why am I not?
Yes, you need to
seeing-
mute Discord.
Okay. And unmute himself. Oh, there's a lot of work going back and forth between these screens. But okay, here we go. Looks like we're taking this show on the road. Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, June 26, 2022, and this is show number 894. Well, Steve and I are down in San Diego. We had the great pleasure of taking care of Forbes and Sienna, two of our grandchildren, while Lindsay and Nolan were gone for the weekend. And we had a blast, played in the pool the whole time, but that's why you might hear a difference in my microphone. You know, in 2020, Steve and I were supposed to go on a trip to Iceland, but of course that didn't happen. We rescheduled it to 2021, and of course it still didn't happen. But barring any catastrophes, we will actually be getting to make the trip in July of this year. It's a pretty cool trip organized by UCLA alumni. We'll be traveling around Iceland on a relatively small cruise ship with less than 200 people. But the coolest part is that we'll be traveling with astrophysicist Dr. Andrea Ghez. Now, Dr. Ghez, you may have heard of her name. She won the Nobel Prize in Physics for her part in the discovery of the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. How cool is that? Well, anyway, every night she'll be giving lectures, and if she's anywhere near as good as the astrophysicist who traveled with us in Chile for the total eclipse a few years ago, the lectures will be my favorite part. I mean, I suppose Iceland will be cool too. Anyway, I'm telling you all of this because this means that Alistair and Bart will be keeping the NosillaCast ship afloat in our absence. This also means they need your help. They need you to make recordings for them for the show. So poke around in your toys and find something fun to review. Dig through your apps and see if you can find something that would be interesting for the NosillaCast audience. Maybe you've got an iOS app or a keyboard or a Bluetooth accessory that gives you delight. Tell us about it. Bart and Alistair are doing a huge favor for me doing this, so please don't let them down. We need to keep the record going of no missed NosillaCasts in over 17 years. So I'd like to see these get to us by July 6th so that they know for sure they have content to depend on. I will have little or no internets on the ship, so you should include me on distribution, but I want you to make sure you send them to both Alistair and Bart, and there'll be links in the show notes for sure to podcasting at bartificer.net and zcarge@me.com. Now, I'm sure you couldn't get that through audio, but again, it'll be in the show notes. So thank you very much in advance from both of them. Let's keep this 17-year streak going. There we go. Okay, you think my voice is a bit hot, huh? Well, it would probably be bad if I changed it now. Now, I'm sure you couldn't get that through audio, but again, it'll be in the show notes. So thank you very much.
Hey, Al.
I'm just hitting minus 9 dB on the recording.
Say again?
I'm hitting minus 9 dB on the recording, and it needs to be between 6 and 9. Minus 6 and minus 9.
So maybe you could go into Discord and bring your volume down
Change
a little bit. Yeah, your
Okay.
input volume.
Let's try that.
I had to crank you
Ooh,
down.
it's all the way up.
Yeah.
How is that? Is that better?
I didn't hear
That's
it.
down to 75%?
I'm not listening to you on Discord, so they'll have
Okay.
to tell you.
Is that better? Is that better?
How's it sound,
Just
Discord?
don't
Give us
sing.
some feedback here.
All right. Steve Davidson says it sounds about right. So nice to see you, Steve. This is great. A bit better. I know Kevin would like it if I was down to 0. Okay, now John says
Now
she's
she's
a little
too
low.
low. Are you listening on Discord, John?
Okay, Jason says it sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, he's on
So I
Discord.
think you've gone low enough.
Okay. Oh, but Allison just got real quiet on Discord. Okay, I'm going to split the difference here.
Yeah.
Go up to 86.
Okay, no comments other than Discord. Discord volume only is what we're testing right now.
Okay, but it is interesting that Steve thought we were, it sounded pretty good there. Not info@butterfister.net. That's wrong. Al, change that to podcasting@bartificer.net. You should be able to edit what you just wrote.
Sounds
I'm going
okay.
to put it in here. Podcasting@bartificer.net. You got that part right, and it's zcarge@me.com.
All right.
Proceed with the live show. We have been given the go codes.
Thank you,
Okay,
Rick.
So, Jill, we may need you to stand in for Sandy on keeping Kevin in line, because we got no Sandy here.
Kevin could do fine.
Yeah. Okay. Time for. Let's see. I'm gonna do a chapter mark. Here we go. Let's see if it's in the mood today. Nope. Nothing. Oh, come on. G for grumpy. No, maybe it's H for Hindi. That's what's wrong. Let's see if that worked. Copy link. It worked, but that's weird. I didn't hear the beep, but it worked. That's all we care about.
Good.
All right. Our hero, Seamus, is up. Ooh, thank you, Steve. We really should figure out what that hiss is, but all right, here we go. In this week's episode, nope. In this week's episode of Chit Chat Across the Pond, I'm joined by longtime Nosilla castaway Seamus Lavery. Seamus started posting photos of his black lab Quaid to the live chat room recently, and then explained that he's a puppy raiser, not Quaid, Seamus is the puppy raiser, for Guiding Eyes for the Blind. He agreed to come on the show to tell us what it's like to be a puppy raiser, what his responsibilities are, what he's supposed to teach Quaid, and the uphill road it is for Quaid to qualify to be a service dog for the blind. Okay, here's something funny. Bart is a Belgian living in the Republic of Ireland. Seamus is a Northern Irishman who lived for 12 years in Belgium. He now lives in Washington, D.C. Anyway, his accent is delightful, his story is fascinating, and it really helped me understand what goes into raising a service dog before they actually start their training for the blind. So it's an awesome episode. Look for Chit Chat Across the Pond number 734, Seamus Lavery on raising a service dog for Guiding Eyes. Hey, Seamus, you should tell the Guiding Eyes people about the conversation. I think it might be fun. All right, thank you for the save. Is that a picture of Seamus? I mean, of Quaid? Why do you think that's Quaid, Steve?
I didn't. No, it was the shot in the car in the Tesla, as I was commenting about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Guiding Eyes for the Blind link.
No,
okay,
it's the one above that. But it does look like it could be him.
I don't want to say all black labs look alike, but let's see.
No, we know one that looks different. That's Dodger.
Well, he's a mutt, so he's got some.
He's not all lab.
Yeah,
not all lab all the time.
Okay, so it's time.
Yeah, there's Quaid. I was waiting for it.
Oh, was his name Quaid in
Yes. Yes, and I couldn't remember where I'd heard that name in sci-fi, but that's it.
That's funny.
That's the one about the trip
that's
to
such
Mars.
a great movie. I wonder if the kids have seen it. Lindsay and
I don't
Nolan,
know.
have you seen?
Well, I thought you meant the
Lindsay. She's
grandkids.
in here. Well, no, it's not for the grandkids. Jeez, Steve.
I was going to say that may not be appropriate.
I don't think that's the kind.
Total
Steve
Recall.
has a little
Thank
different
you.
idea of what's. We have that on Plex.
We do.
All right. Okay, here we go. Muting Steve. Oh, double mute.
Hey.
Triple mute. Okay, here we go. In March of this year, I wrote a blog post entitled, I Have Made Fire! Shortcut with shell script to mount a NAS share. I was so proud of my little self because I'd written my first shell script to solve a real problem, and I'd used a shortcut with it just to prove that I could, not because it was necessary. In May, I wrote another article entitled, How Did I Break My Keychain Access for My Local Server?, in which I explained that the fragility of shortcuts made my previous solution entirely unstable. In that second article, I explained how I tried to fix my solution and ended up somehow breaking my iCloud keychain so that I couldn't mount servers without pushing a button that said connect. In a few thousand words, I explained that I had found a defaults write command that stopped that dreaded connect button pop-up. I thought I was on the road to getting my original Hazel script to work. All of that is still true, but the story isn't over, because I still had to rewrite the script to include the functionality that was in the fragile shortcut. For more than a month now, I've been spending hours and hours trying to get this to work. I've asked the community in Slack, and L. Butler, also known as Lewis Butler, jumped in to help. He gave me an idea that ended up being pivotal to the solution. The script goes inside Hazel, and the developer Paul Kim has also been very helpful. As I continued to run into trouble, I even tried rubber ducking the problem. This is a technique where you try to explain the problem to an inanimate object, and the very act of trying to explain the problem out loud helps you find your own solution. Kevin Alder sent me a set of rubber ducks, and I keep one on top of my monitor for just this purpose. I've even named my rubber duck Kevin. I explained the problem I'll get that right yet. I explained the problem in detail to Kevin, the duck, but he wasn't much help. Finally, I convinced listener and real-life friend Ed Tobias to rubber duck the problem with me in a video session. He's a super nerd and he does a lot of coding, but he often tries to tell me that he's not a real programmer because he kind of does more hackery to get things done. I think that is a real programmer. In any case, I knew that Ed would be the perfect person to work through the problem with me, and hopefully I'd be able to figure it out. Now, I promise I'm not going to actually talk about any code at all in this section and still walk you through why this was such a sticky problem to solve. It's really a story of the inadequacies of the tools we have and the constraints Apple has caused in the name of security. In order to explain, let me remind you of the problem I'm trying to solve in the first place. I use the awesome app Hazel from Noodlesoft.com to monitor my podcasting folders on my Mac. When the enclosed files are older than 2 weeks, Hazel whisks these files off of my internal drive and moves them to a share on my Synology and deletes them locally. This is a critical automation for me because I create around 4 gigabytes of audio files every single week. If I don't have Hazel cleaning up these files, I could easily run out of disk space and be in real trouble. Now, my Hazel rule works great as long as I'm on my home network. The minute I leave my house, Hazel complains that it can't find my Synology, so it can't clean up these folders for me. I am barraged with notifications because Hazel so desperately wants to do her job. Hazel does have an off switch, so for years I've been turning her off when I'm away from home as soon as I start getting these notifications that she can't find my server. Oh, it's annoying to have to do that because it also means I have to remember to turn her back on when I get home. The other problem with turning Hazel off is she also watches some other folders that don't require me to be on my home network. So I'd really kind of like to keep those rules working. For example, she watches my Delete Me folder and throws away files after they've passed a certain age. All of those rules stop running if I turn Hazel off completely. Instead of turning off all of Hazel, I could also just pause the rules that talk to my server. But that means a lot of manual intervention on my part, defeating the purpose of automation. And of course, all of those servers have to be unpaused upon my return to my home network. I should say all of those rules have to be unpaused when I return. Anyway, I wanted to do one simple thing. I wanted to tell Hazel, if I'm on my home network, mount the server and move the files. If I'm not on my home network, don't even try to mount the server and just fail silently. Well, the first piece of the puzzle was how to tell Hazel whether I'm on my home network. That was pretty easy. I figured out how to send one single ping to the IP of my Synology. If the ping returns, then I'm on my home network. If there's no reply to the ping, then I must be out gallivanting around on other networks. So Hazel has 2 distinct parts. The first part is the conditional section. My conditional statement for my podcasting files is if a file is older than 2 weeks. On Lewis Butler's advice, I put my ping test to see if I'm on the network up in that conditional section. In Hazel, you get to choose whether any or all rules have been met. So I said it had to meet all conditions. So the conditional section then says, if Hazel can ping the Synology and it's found a file that's older than 2 weeks, then it is allowed to proceed to the next section where the actions actually take place. I was able to determine that the conditional section was working properly by using a built-in function of Hazel, even though I hadn't set up the action section yet. You can choose a file, and Hazel will tell you whether any or all of the rules have been matched, including my script to ping the server. I was able to flip back and forth between my main network and my guest network where the Synology was unavailable, and Hazel behaved as expected. All right, the second half of Hazel is where you tell her what action to take. My goal for a script in the action section was pretty simple. We know we're on the home network because we passed both of the conditional rule tests. The action statement should have been the easy part. I only needed Hazel to mount the share and then move the old files to the server. This is where I ran into the difficulty with Apple's security constraints. While I can use Command K to mount my server from the Finder GUI, if I use the mount command from the terminal or a shell script, I get a pop-up showing my credentials, and it requires me to push the darn button, even though my credentials are stored in iCloud Keychain. Obviously, if I'm trying to have a script run to do this, I can't have it pushing a GUI button. Now, this is different from the problem I described in the post I was talking about entitled, How Did I Break My Keychain Access for My Local Server? In that case, I was just doing a Do you really want to connect button, but it wasn't asking about my login credentials, so this is a whole different problem. I chatted with Lewis about the fact that I couldn't mount the server without this GUI interaction, and he suggested a different approach. He built a very simple Automator script to mount his server, and he thought that might work for me. So Automator is a drag and drop environment where you can also add scripts, so that sounded like a good path. Following Lewis's lead, I dragged in the action called Get Specified Servers, where I typed in the SMB mount command for my server and its share. The second action to drag in is simply connect to servers. As Lewis promised, I can run that Automator script and my server share mounts with no pop-up from the GUI asking if I really want to connect. I was so happy, but my joy was short-lived. These two simple actions work perfectly unless the server share, or they work perfectly if the server share is not already mounted. If the server share is already mounted, Automator throws an error. Okay, that's just silly. Come on, just ignore it, right? Just okay, you've already got it. Just say, yeah, I already got it. Why do you have to throw an error? I would need to tell Automator to only try to mount the server if it's not already mounted. That doesn't sound too hard. Well, cue the foreboding music right here. This is when I discovered a huge limitation of Automator. It has no logic capabilities whatsoever. It has no concept of if this, then that. I should be able to work around that. I figured I'd just write a shell script to put in between the actions get specified server and connects to server. So in my script, I would put this logic. If the server is not mounted, mount the share. If the server is already mounted, do nothing. That's a pretty simple set of instructions. And guess what? It didn't work. Turns out that you simply have to give the second action, connect to server, a valid server address. Since no matter what, that last action, connect to server, will be executed. If you don't pass it an address to which it can connect, it's going to throw an error. At this point, I felt like I was chasing my own tail. For weeks, I would try to get this to work from the shell script, but I'd get the darn GUI pop-up, so I'd switch back to using Automator, but I'd run into the already mounted server error, and I kept thinking, if I could just write a better script, I could get out of this problem. At one point, I took a drastic step, and I checked the Hazel log files in the console app. Console is the place where madness thrives, really. I've looked at log files so many times, and not once did I ever learn a darn thing. But ever hopeful, I always go check those log files. But Paul Kim, developer of Hazel, actually writes out log files in a surprisingly human-friendly way. According to the Hazel logs, with my Automator script embedded inside Hazel, the connect to server action was very confused. Rather than being passed the server IP and share name, somehow it was getting passed the name of the file that Hazel had found that was older than 2 weeks. So I'm thinking that it's trying to get this SMB server, but instead it's getting the name of the Hazel file, or the name of the file that Hazel found. Well, developer Paul Kim is super helpful and super smart, so I emailed him about this. He explained that Hazel always passes the file name from the conditional section to the action section. Since my first action is Automator, it is the lucky recipient of that file name. Paul went on to explain that Automator has an option on each action to simply ignore any input it receives. This was super important information to have, and nothing I was trying to do was going to work if I hadn't known to implement this solution. But it didn't change the tail chasing I was doing between shell scripts and Automator to reach my very simple goal. I mean, this whole thing should have been like 5 lines. All right, before I go on, I want to tell you one funny little thing. When I was reading Paul's console logs, I wrote in our Programming by Stealth channel in Slack, "Proof I've descended into this shared madness called programming. I just successfully interpreted an application's log files. I am a developer." I was thought that was kind of funny. Scott Wilsey beat me on that, though. He made me laugh out loud when he responded with, "Clearly, the app's developer forgot their lessons in log file obfuscation." I thought that was great. Anyway, after chasing my tail for weeks, it was time for my rubber ducking session with Ed Tobias. I wanted to keep the conversation at a high level, so to avoid digging into syntax, I started a screen share and I simply typed out logic statements such as, If share is not mounted, then mount share, else do nothing. Words like that. Just I wanted to do it graphically, but for some reason it wouldn't connect to my iPad. It was a big mess. But anyway, I didn't put any real coding up on the screen. So once he had the big picture of what I was trying to do, I demonstrated the two problems: the shell script causing the GUI pop-up and the automator script falling over in a heap if the server was already mounted. As we noodled the various issues with the solutions I had tried, it suddenly hit me. There was a solution. If Automator can mount the server share as long as it's unmounted, maybe the first step in my script should be to unmount the share. When I told Ed my idea, I could not stop laughing at how stupid my solution was, and yet it's also brilliant. If it can't mount it if it's already mounted, then just unmount it and then mount it again. When Ed and I were finished reworking the solution, the entire function of the script was to find out if the share was mounted, and if so, unmount it, then pass along the SMB connection information to the automator action to mount the share. We tested Hazel with my now very simple automator combinations shell script under 3 scenarios. When I was on my guest network, as expected, it did nothing, and I got no notifications from Hazel. On my real network, when the share was not mounted, it mounted the share and moved the old file as expected. On my real network, if the server share was mounted, the share briefly disappeared, reappeared, and then the old file moved as expected. With one last giggle at the solution, we ended our screen share and I declared victory. Well, I had my first chance to real-world test whether Hazel would fail silently when off my home network over the Father's Day weekend. We surprised Steve's dad by appearing on his doorstep for Father's Day. They live like 4 hours away. And we stayed in a hotel using the free Wi-Fi. My VPN from PIA kicked in as expected, and over the weekend, Hazel had no complaints about not finding my server. I was so happy. But then, as I was writing this part of this article, I had a thought. Hazel's job is to run silently in the background, keeping an eye on your folders and taking action according to the rules you set for it. What if I'm at home, working on a spreadsheet that's on my Synology, and Hazel finds a file that she wants to move? She's going to unmount the share and remount it just as instructed. That would cause an interrupt and probably corrupt my file. Sadly, I had to abandon my brilliant solution of unmounting and remounting my share before doing any file moves with Hazel. Earlier, while I was searching for a solution to this conundrum, I found a freemium app in the Mac App Store called Automounter. I mispronounced that a little bit. Automounter. I do think I have a solution. I'm going to keep the rule that tells Hazel if I'm not on my network, then don't do anything. But I'm not even going to try to mount or unmount the shares. Instead, I'll run the $10 Automounter app from Pixelize. And this is a New Zealand company, by the way, so they must be good because that's where Alistair's from. Anyway, Automounter's entire reason for being is to keep the server shares mounted. If one disconnects for some reason, it just brings it right back. Now, I hadn't embraced Automounter as my solution originally because the idea of having all these server shares from my Drobo and my Synology mounted all the time, cluttering up my desktop, that made me crazy. I don't want them mounted. I want them to briefly mount them, do the job, and have them go away. But I gave Automounter a try anyway because I'd run out of solution ideas, and it has a very slick feature. It can hide mounted shares so you don't have to look at them on your desktop. They still show in the Finder sidebar, so there's no problem accessing them, but they're not in your way. I can choose to not worry my pretty little head about the fact that they're mounted, and yet they'll already be mounted when I needed them. I configured Automounter to mount my server shares, and it worked just as promised. Now, I paid the $10 for the Pro settings, which allow you to define custom mount points, such as /volumes, and you can also have applications or files launch when the share is mounted. Now, the question was, how would it react when I went on travel? Would it start yelling at me, giving me notifications that it couldn't find the servers, just like Hazel? Nope. I checked Automounter from the hotel Wi-Fi, and in the listing of the shares I'd instructed it to keep mounted, it simply said, SMB's not available, and it also says, rules not met at the top. So apparently, if it can't find it, it just doesn't try to mount it. While it still bothered me that I couldn't crack the code, literally on this whole programming problem, I discovered Automounter, and it essentially solved the problems so my Hazel rules will function and not nag me when I'm away from my home network. But then I got an email from Ed saying he's got another idea for a script. Well, I'm starting to feel like this is the song that never ends. All right.
All right, I
That
have
was a long one.
I have a couple questions. So is Paul, the developer of this software,
Yeah.
is that Mr. Noodle?
Mr. Noodle himself.
Mr. Noodle. And I think that kind of affected your writing of the post because you said a couple times you noodled it a bit.
Aren't you adorable?
No? No connection. Okay.
That's funny.
Maybe it's
I like
subliminal.
Subliminal?
Subliminal.
All right. Okay. Somebody wants a chapter mark.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Copy
See if it
link.
works.
Oh yeah, it's been working a champ.
So
I don't know why.
what did you do? You had a keystroke difference that you noticed.
Well, I'm just
W
doing
versus
No, I'm new. It's H. I was thinking it was Shift Control Option Command G for grumpy, but it's
So is that
Shift
what's been
Control Option
happening
Command H.
all
No, I've
this
been using
time?
a button on my Stream Deck.
maybe the button needs to be reprogrammed.
No, because it
Yeah.
calls the it calls the keystroke Shift Control Option Command H, which calls the Keyboard Maestro macro.
Ah.
High fives, Lindsay the daughter. What are we high fiving Lindsay about?
I don't know. Maybe we missed something.
Oh, Jill's testing Auto Monitor. Cool. Yeah, there's a free version. All right.
Moving on.
Yes. Okay. So we are ready for
You need
tiny
some music.
tips. Oh yeah. You know, I didn't play my music last time.
Tiny tips?
My Tiny Tips music.
Yeah.
I know.
Let's see this
Yeah.
gift. High
Okay,
five.
Yeah. Why are we high fiving Lindsay? I missed it.
I don't know. It could just be the generic high five.
Maybe people just like.
They like seeing Lindsay there, maybe.
Okay. All right. This is all about Jill. Let's see. Goes right into the music there.
Hi, Linz. I see you.
There she is. But why were they high fiving you? All right, I'm muting Steve. Wanted to because she said winglet. Okay. Well, I've started a series of tiny Mac tips for Jill of the North Woods, who just recently switched from Windows to the Mac. It's easy to use a Mac, but there's a lot of little tips and tricks that will make you more productive and enjoy it even more. This is part 2 of this series, and I've put a link in the show notes to part 1 of the Tiny Mac tips if you need to go back and pick those up. Now, I doubt that any of these tips will be truly life-changing. Well, one of them is magical, so maybe. And if you've been using a Mac for a long time, you may even know a lot of them. But when you learn them all, you may feel that you can use your Mac like a boss. Well, the first tip is to try holding down the Option key when you click on things. You'll often see menus change and new capabilities will be revealed. Here's just a couple of examples of where the Option key reveals hidden options. See what I did there? All right. So let's just go through a couple of these little examples. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but just a few that came to the top of my head. If you click on the Bluetooth icon in your menu bar, you get a list of the available Bluetooth devices. But maybe you want to know whether your AirPods have updated themselves to the latest firmware you just heard about. Hold down the Option key when you click the Bluetooth icon, and you'll be able to see the firmware version and MAC address of every one of the available Bluetooth items. If you ever want to know anything about your Mac, from hardware to software, you have access to that information in just 2 clicks. If you select the Apple logo at the top left of the menu bar, the first item is called About This Mac. Now, this window by itself is pretty useful. It tells you the make and model of your... the make and model of your Mac, its serial number, and its configuration, like how much disk and how much RAM. But if you want to dig deep, on the Overview tab, select System Report. From this report, you can find out things like exactly which SSD is installed, everything about those Bluetooth accessories. You can see the Thunderbolt USB 4 device tree of what's connected, detailed network information, and more. When the Mac converted to requiring apps to be 64-bit, System Report was one of the places you could go to sort your apps by whether they were 32 or 64-bit and figure out which ones you needed to replace. It's a really interesting place to poke around and to learn about your system. So that by itself is kind of a fun Mac tip, but you can get to the System Report even more quickly with our friend the Option key. Before clicking the Apple logo in the menu bar, Hold down Option and then click the Apple logo. The first choice in the list will change from About This Mac to System Information. So you see what I mean? That these just sort of change things that are out there that you've seen before. Holding down the Option key just changes them. Now, Macs are pretty good at detecting attached external displays, but once in a while, you need to tickle things to get your Mac to recognize a display. Open Displays in System Preferences. In the bottom right, you'll see a button that says Night Shift. Don't click it. Hold down the Option key, and the Night Shift button turns into Detect Displays. This is just an obscure one. I just ran across this one today. All right, you can drag a file to move it from one folder to another, right? Did you know that if you hold down the Option key, when you click and drag, it will copy the file to the new location instead of moving the file? When you Option click drag, you'll see a green circle with a plus sign on it while you're dragging, and that indicates that it's going to copy instead of move the file. Now here's a sub trick to quickly duplicate a file. Hold down the Option key, drag the file to any other location, but don't let go of it. Just drop it back in the original location, and it duplicates the file. All right, I know, you could use Command D. It's a much easier way to duplicate a file, but I discovered this tip accidentally when I was testing the Option drag copy method, so I thought I'd let you know you could do it that way too. Finally, with the Option key, Apple seems to spend a lot of energy hiding things from us. For example, they don't want you to worry your pretty little head about seeing your library folder. Now, I suppose that for most people that isn't the worst thing, but if you want to be a power user, you're going to want to know where your library folder is, and you probably want to be able to access it quickly and easily. In the Finder, if you click on the Go menu in the menu bar, you'll see a list of locations, things like Recents, Documents, and Downloads, but you will not see Library in the download. Let go of that menu. This time, Option click the Go menu, and now Library will be visible in the list. So the main lesson here in this section is to hold down the Option key while clicking menus, and you'll often be surprised of hidden capabilities that you may find very useful to you. All right, our next tip is going to be about the sidebar. When you first start up a new Mac, the Finder has a list of folders in the left sidebar. Among others, you'll see things like your user account, desktop, documents, downloads, and recents. Recents is a smart folder of your most recently opened items. It turns out you can add and remove any folder to the sidebar for quick access. Navigate to the folder you need to get to often, then click and drag it into the sidebar. As you move it up and down in the list, you'll see a little black line showing you where it will land if you let go. If it drops into the wrong place, don't worry about it. Just click and drag it to where you wanted it to go. I use this feature of macOS all the time, adding and removing folders as I need them. For example, if I'm working on planning a trip, I make a folder for all of the documents for the trip, and then I keep that folder in my Finder sidebar for easy access. Under normal circumstances, they're usually on my Google Drive, and they're buried really, really low into Google Drive, but having it on the Finder sidebar, I can get to it immediately. An important thing about using this Finder sidebar is remember that with the Mac, the Save As dialog box shows the same left-hand sidebar. When I save a confirmation from an email or I print a ticket to PDF, my newly added trip folder is right there in the sidebar, so I don't have to navigate deep into those folders to find the folder in which I want to save them. When the trip is over, I only need to drag it out of the sidebar to remove it. The folder is safe and sound in its original location, it's just no longer in the sidebar. Now remember that tip about using the Option key when selecting Go to reveal the library folder? If you find you need the library folder pretty often like I do, you can drag it into the left sidebar of your Finder window just like any other folder. Well, you may notice that an app you've installed launches itself at login, but you don't remember telling it was allowed to do that. While some apps are quite polite and they ask your permission, and maybe they even have a toggle box within their own preferences to control whether they launch at login, some apps are less respectful. The macOS level control for login items is a tad bit buried. Open System Preferences, Users and Groups, and then click on your account name in the left panel. Near the top of that pane, you'll see that your account opened to the Password tab, but there's a separate tab for login items. On this tab, you'll see a list of all the applications that have decided to automatically launch upon login. Some may have asked for permission, and some definitely do need to be launched at login, but once in a while an odd one slips in. In the screenshot I put in the show notes, I could see that the VPN app called iVPN had added itself to login items when I was testing it, and that makes complete sense. but it's got a yellow alert because I've actually uninstalled that app. To control this list of login items, click on the lock and enter your login password, and then click the minus button down below to the list to remove an item, or click the plus button to add a new application to the list. In some cases, you really want an app to launch at login, but you don't actually need to see the app. There's a little checkbox column to hide selected applications. I do that with Text Expander. I can't live without Text Expander running, but I don't need to see it open in order to use it. All right, let's talk a little bit about focus mode. I'm not a huge fan of the new focus modes for Apple devices, but it's probably because I really like notifications. Remember my post about that? I'm kind of in the all or nothing camp. When I'm recording a podcast, I want nothing disturbing me. But the rest of the time, I want all the notifications. I really do miss the old do not disturb toggle, but I can live with clicking 3 times to tell my devices to leave me alone indefinitely. Now, as a Mac, iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch user, I love that all of my devices are interconnected through my iCloud account. That advantage is quite helpful when setting a focus mode. If you have an Apple Watch, swipe up and tap the little moon and choose your focus mode. When you do that, all of the devices logged into the same iCloud account automatically go into that same focus mode. Your Mac, your iPhone, and your iPad will all follow along. Likewise, on your Mac, if you tap on Control Center in the menu bar, that's those 2 little toggle switches that are kind of going in opposite directions. If you choose a focus mode from there, your Apple Watch and iPad and iPhone will all go into that same focus mode. I love that I can just grab whatever device is closest to me and easiest to change, and all of my other devices switch right along with them. And of course, you can turn off focus modes on any device, and they all follow suit. All right, let's talk about another thing that's also cool about having interconnected devices. Continuity is the name Apple uses to describe this concept of allowing all devices in one Apple ID to be able to work together. I put a link in the show notes to the Apple article on continuity because there's a lot in there. Continuity does have a lot of features that hog all the publicity, such as Sidecar to use an iPad on the second screen for your Mac, and Universal Control, which allows you to drag your cursor from your Mac to your iPad and use the Mac's keyboard on the iPad. Now, those features are sexy and super useful. But while those splashy features get all the glamour, the feature of continuity I use the most, that you might not know about it, is copy and paste between devices. It's a real pain to type on the small keyboard of an iPhone, at least for everybody over 30, but with continuity, you can type long-form text on your Mac or iPad with a proper physical keyboard, copy it, and then simply tap on any text field on the iPhone and select paste. It is magical. That's the one I thought maybe that is life-changing. I love that. And I notice if my Mac has suddenly maybe gotten onto my guest network, it's like, why isn't paste working? I can't live without it. So I really do depend on that one. Now, as my friend Dean says, deciding to justify the cost of your first Mac is very difficult, but justifying the cost of the second one is quite easy. Before you know it, they'll be littered about your house. You'll have bought them for your spouse, your children, and maybe an extra one for yourself. From time to time, it would be handy to be at a different Mac, but maybe you're too lazy to walk all the way upstairs to fix something, maybe on your kid's Mac. With Mac OS, you can screen share into other Macs on your network right from inside the Finder. You don't need to install any software. Before you have the need to screen share, on every Mac you might want to connect into, open System Preferences to the Share Preference pane and click on the On checkbox for screen sharing. From there, you can allow access to specific users or all users. So you have to do that ahead of time on all of those Macs that you might want to connect into. But once that's enabled, on your Mac, simply open a Finder window, scroll down to the left sidebar to where it says Network. If the other Mac is available on the network, you should see it listed there. Once it's selected, you'll see 2 buttons, Connect As, which allows you to into the file system of that other Mac, and Share Screen, which does just what it says on the tin. By the way, to do that file system back in System Preferences, you do need to check the on box for file sharing. All right, this is a really quick one. This is a short one, and I love it. When looking at long-form content in many apps, including browsers and preview with PDFs, I should say, the command down arrow will jump you immediately to the bottom of the page. Even more useful, let's say you've scrolled down a bit on a page and you want to get to the top. Simply use Command up arrow to jump to the top of the page. If you'd like to scroll down and up just one page at a time, try Option down and up arrow. All right, Finder is designed to help you find things, but sometimes that isn't as easy as it sounds. Scrolling through a long list of items in alphabetical order can take a long time, and we learned last time you can type a character to the first letter or the first two letters of a file name, and your list will jump down there. But what if you know other things about your file, like it's really big, or you modified it just recently? Depending on the Finder view you've chosen, you could use the column headings to sort the files, but some of the views don't even have that. To the right of the name of the folder you're viewing in the Finder is a strange-looking icon. It's a horizontal line, 3 little boxes below that, another horizontal line, and another 3 boxes. You may see the word Group underneath it. That little icon is designed to let you see the folder items in groups with little lines separating them. You can choose to group items in a Finder window by name, kind, application, size, tags, or 4 different date criteria: last opened, added, modified, or created. I keep my downloads folder with group set to date added so that when I download a file, it is always right at the top of the list view. You can use group on your applications folder in the Finder as well, but the options are a little more limited. You can group by name, application category, date last opened, date added, size, or tagged. Tags, I should say. All right, this is our last tiny tip. In the past few years, Apple's been on a path to protect us more and more from the evil that lies on the internet. Now, I wholeheartedly approve of these measures, and I also know that sometimes it makes good sense to go around these protections. In the old days, you could just download any old installer from any old website, or even clicking it a download from an email. You can install it on your Mac without any challenges. If you were super knowledgeable and knew how to avoid dangerous sites and installers, this wasn't a problem. Unfortunately, the vast majority of users were at significant risk. In order to protect us from our own trusting behavior, Apple created a system preference pane and called it Security and Privacy. On the General tab, you have 2 radio buttons that have options to allow apps downloaded from the App Store only or App Store and identified developers. The App Store only option is great for people who are unlikely to need anything else, but for more sophisticated users, you might want the freedom to download from outside the App Store. An identified developer is one who has notarized their app, which means that any problems with it can be traced back to them. It's not a foolproof method, but malware developers are unlikely to want to notarize their apps. Apps from identified developers aren't vetted in any way like the App Store apps are, but they can still be really good apps. All of this is great, and I'm glad these protections are in place. It doesn't come up often, but sometimes an app is legit, but it's not from a signed developer. Let me give you an example. We were just talking about Automator that lets you use drag and drop actions along with text-based script and then save those workflows as an application. We just talked about how Lewis Butler was helping me, and he sent me an app he created in Automator as an example of how I could solve the problem. When I downloaded the app and tried to run it, I was denied. This makes sense, because Lewis didn't go through the notarization process for just this little demo app. Sometimes the security and privacy preference pane will have a button letting you open that unsigned app, but there's a much easier, more dependable way to open an unsigned app. I could open Lewis's app in Automator, by the way, so I could see what it does and verify it's not doing anything nefarious, so I know that this is a good app, but Apple's not going to let me launch that app by double-clicking it. Here's the tiny tip. If you get into this situation and you really, truly know that the app you're trying to launch is safe, it's super easy. Simply hold down the Control key and click the app once to bring up the contextual menu. The top choice will be Open. This action will bring up a window telling you again, it shouldn't be open because Apple cannot check it for malicious software. But on that same screen, there's an Open button. Click it and your app will open, and the Mac will remember that you've given it permission to launch from now on. Now that you understand why Apple instituted this change, you can judiciously use this new trick on apps you are truly certain are okay. I hope you've learned at least one new trick from part 2 of my Tiny Mac tips. And remember, a lot of this depends on what system preferences looks like when you get to macOS Ventura, the next version of macOS. It's going to be called the Settings app, and I'm betting that all of my screenshots will need to be redone. Anyway, I hope you learned something. I had fun putting it together.
Woo! It was a long one.
37 minutes. Man, I don't even need Bart on this one.
No. Include Bart.
And you know what? I need... Okay, so...
You got a typo?
I had a typo. It said TOU.
Want me to do it?
Sure. Just do a search for TOU.
Is that
It's
a
right
word?
before opening unsigned apps.
TOU. One occurrence.
search.
And you wanted
YOU, I'm thinking.
Oh, UCAN group. Got it.
Yeah. All right, let's bring up the security bits
Opening
music
unsigned
here.
apps. That's towards the bottom, right?
Map out system say, oh, I know. Oh, God, that'd be so fun, Mike. Boy, that does sound really fun.
Opening unsigned apps was towards the bottom? Where was that?
Yeah. You should just do Command F.
I found it. Okay. I'll do it again.
And putting it together. Okay. Wouldn't it be fun? What app would I use? Include Bart next week. No, the one thing I can never do is wait on security bits.
Right.
Can't. It's the one thing you can't. It'd be
Because
stale.
that's timely.
Yep. All right. Option T.
It's
and
not
option
evergreen.
T. Yeah, it is not evergreen. I went back and forth on whether to try to get that tiny tip thing ready, and I thought I needed that much content, but maybe I didn't. Oh, let's have a listen. Get ready, Steve. Listen.
I'm listening. Oh.
No, you just talked over it.
Do it again.
Shh.
There we go.
Oh, Lindsay, is Forbes listening?
What we're testing here
Because-
is if Lindsay is listening.
Yeah, actually, we are. Well, it's that time of the week. Wait, didn't mean to do that.
Okay, 1 second. I think she's in the middle of something.
I don't know, I can hear Sienna wailing
Yeah,
about
she may be having a breakdown.
horrible situation. Some terrible thing has happened. Like
Well,
a
she
ball
is
rolled
too.
away from her. Yeah, she is.
Definitely
Okay,
two.
Okay, so let me find this.
Ready.
I know. I'm looking for it. Here we go.
Okay, Forbes, listen
to
up.
Hear this. Listen. Don't talk, Steve.
Blinky blink.
Wow, how old was he then?
I don't know. Listen again.
Blinky blink.
Did he laugh, Lindsay?
He
glared
glared.
at me.
That's great.
That's awesome. I love it. That's great. Okay, let's see. I think we want to be about here. Oh, I keep hitting the space bar. I want to get you right about like right there, I think. Let me click those two. Why did I even do that? He wants to know of his famous quote. Because I asked him to. Forbes, that's great. The audience, tell him why everybody loves that,
We
right?
love it, Forbes.
All right, let's listen to this interchange here. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for security. There you go. All right.
Not bad
The
for a
end.
first cut.
No.
Remember to stay patched so you stay secure.
There you go. Oh, that's probably mean I'm cracking ice into a microphone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Heard it. Heard ya.
Heard it. All right. Time for me to wind it up. Yeah. So Sandy is off on a big trip to Europe. So she's not going to be here for a while.
So that's why she isn't here.
Wait a minute. Kevin only likes your grandfather and your mom. Yeah, she's going on a long trip. So, and she was sad she was going to miss a couple of shows, live shows. And I said, yeah, but I'm going to be gone during those live shows anyway. So they won't occur. No live shows while we're gone. Tell him he was bribed with a cake pop. See, Forbes, everybody knows your secrets. It's not time to say goodnight. I haven't done the outro yet. Don't run us out yet, Al. Okay, here we go. Well, that's going to wind us up this week. Remember, you can email me at allison@podfeed.com. But what you really need to do is you need to sit down and do some recordings. You can use any recording software you want. The microphone on the iPhone is actually a pretty good recorder if you can do it all in one take. Or you can take those recordings and edit it on your Mac or your PC. Just do recordings for Bart and Alistair. We really need the content. Anyway, you can email me at allison@podfeed.com along with Alistair and Bart. And if you have a question or suggestion, just send it on over to me. You can follow me on Twitter at Podfeed. If you want to join in the conversation, man, Lewis Butler was so helpful in our Slack community. You can be in there too and get help and give help at podfeed.com/Slack, where you can talk to me and all of the other lovely NosillaCast castaways, even Bart. Remember, everything good starts with podfeed.com. You can support the show like all of the great patrons at podfeed.com/Patreon. Remember, very small percentage of people actually support the show, and you could be doing it too. Or you can do a one-time donation at podfeed.com/PayPal. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeed.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic Nosilla castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. And has anybody else noticed that I forgot to do the pledge break? Oh, that's going to be such a pain. I'm going to skip it.
Leave it out.
No pledge break.
Yeah. Did you have
What's
anyone
that?
you wanted to cite this time?
No.
Okay, I would leave it out.
Yeah, because it's so hard to grab everything and move it over.
Yeah.
I wrote a really good one, too. But that's okay. I will take that out. Okay, I think we are ready to... Oh, we got to do a chapter count. I count how many chapters. I have to mess up the window. Oh, there we go. Wait. Oh, how about one for security bits?
Yeah. Let's do that.
I can tell it should be 4, right?
Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4 without support the show.
Yeah. Can't believe I forgot that. All right. Alrighty. So I remember the chapter count first, you guys. Even though that's how come I forgot to do the support the show. All right. I think we are. If I hit this export button, I think we are done. All right, everybody. I think it's time to say goodbye. It's time to say goodnight. We could say goodnight, Gracie, but she's not here. Uh-oh. Oh. So Steve lost the video. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, I think it's at his end because I'm seeing it and other people are seeing it, so it may be...
Oh, Jill got to kill the doc last week. Yay! You got to use the kill doc problem. Yeah, kill doc is fun. Die! Anyway, all right, I think it is time to go. I'm going to kiss everybody goodbye. I don't see Rose here, but I forgot to kiss her goodbye last week, so I'm kissing her goodbye now. All right, say goodbye, Steve.
Good night, Gracie.
Oh, wait, no, don't.
Oh, wait.
Wait, Forbes
Wait.
wants to come say goodbye. Come on, Forbes. Oh, okay. Goodbye. Why you got so much drool on
Gonna
you?
say goodbye?
Wait, can you? I think she's
Why
not
did
high
you
enough.
not
There she is.
See me.
Oh, I
There's a
hear
delay.
you, Forbes.
It takes a while to see it here. Here's the
Hi.
real time. This is the real time one. This one, not that
What do
one.
you have to
this
say?
one.
Steve? Oh, you want to listen?
Bound to
Okay.
watch
That's
him.
delayed.
Okay, hang on. Gotta get the headphones off here.
Bleh.
Wow.
Okay,
Hey.
keep talking.
This
Sam.
is delayed.
Bleh.
This is real time.
I think you got milk drool on my microphone just now.
Now you're practicing. You know,
What'd you say?
he's playing with delays.
Playing with delay.
Oh, what do you say, Sienna? Say hi, Forbes.
Hello, Sienna. I think
All
we should
right.
let people go. It's
Bye, 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 bye.
not too low, not too close.
Mike says goodbye, Forbes and Sienna.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
All right, I'm gonna cut this link.
Okay.
The stream.
Yeah, you guys can keep talking. Bye, everybody.